Okay, I'm reading about this mental transmutation of our vibrations, and I want to interject something here that happened to me that really proves this. At one time in my life, when I was living with my husband Bob, he was suffering from forgetting who he was even sometime, or even forgetting what his past had been, or our past together, or even the day before. I mean, it was to the point where he couldn't hold down a job anymore because his memory was leaving him. Anyway, one day I was telling him about when my daughter and I lived together in a little roach-infested apartment, and how we became very sick, but we didn't have a car, and we were feeling quite bad, and we decided we would just walk to a doctor. But it was hard to even walk, and we were like holding on to trees and really having quite a difficult time. But I don't want to go into too much detail, because as I was telling Bob this, I was elaborating, embellishing, making it kind of like an exciting story, just to tell him about really how sick we were. And I convinced a part of myself, probably my subconscious, that this was something I liked because of the emotional and amazing way I was telling my husband about what had happened in this past. And so, as soon as I was done telling him this, all at once, out of the clear blue sky, because I hadn't been sick or even feeling the least bit bad, but after the telling of that experience of being sick, all those symptoms of that sickness came back on me. Like 5 minutes later, after telling that, or even while I was telling it, I believe, suddenly I said, "Oh my gosh, I feel so bad." And I said, "Let's get to Walmart. I got to get something for my throat. It hurts like crazy." And it dawned on me then, I had convinced my body that that was a feeling I liked. And your body can harbor the germs or viruses or whatever causes a physical problem. Probably, I've read this, that our body harbors a lot of things that never bother us, because unless our immune system is down, or our imagination is really doing something not too wise, that they can rise up. You know, the little virus for the flu rose up in me quite quickly, and I was instantly sick. But I did understand at that time that I had brought that on myself, and that my words and my actions and my talk to my husband about it was such relish, because I was really trying to entertain him. And that I convinced myself, a part of myself, that could recreate that. And there I had it, full blown. But it didn't last all that long, because knowing what I had done, I knew, well, to start thinking differently. And you can talk yourself into being ill, is what I'm trying to say. Your mind is so powerful. But if it can do that, think what it can do when you talk yourself into feeling wonderful and successful. And you say and think of things like that with relish and with great joy. Then you convince your subconscious self that this is what you want. Because your subconscious self is faithful to materialize whatever you are emotionally aroused by, be it good or bad. It'll recreate the situation for that. And don't ask me how it does that. That is a great secret. But watch those thoughts. You don't have the luxury of having negative thoughts. You can do it. You have free will. You can do that. But it's my suggestion that you don't. Not when it's something like that. And this is why some people are called hypochondriacs. I don't know if I'm saying that word right, but they are sick all the time. And they're always talking about just how sick they are and describing past operations and how they felt and all that. And they bring up all those emotions and all those feelings. And of course they're sick all the time, but they really are. I mean, they really feel bad. They're not lying about that, but They fail to realize that they did it to theirself, just as I did that. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because I know that that works. It works to the negative and it works to the positive too. So it's a discipline of your mind because happiness is a choice. You choose happiness or you choose to be sad. There was a woman once who they were saying, well, we can take all your worries away, you want to study with us. And she thought about it and she said, I don't want my worries taken away because what would I do with myself? What would my life consist of if I didn't have something to worry about? And so she didn't want her worries taken away. But she was speaking truthfully. But so what I'm saying is it's a conscious thought how we want to let our minds be preoccupied with either sad thoughts or happy thoughts. And I choose happy over sad. Okay, now to get back to what I was reading. Okay, mental transmutation is the true power of the initiated, the power which permits one to change undesirable vibrations into desirable vibrations. Hate may be transmitted into love, indifference into interest, cowardice into courage, scarcity into abundance, misfortune into happiness. Everything can be changed through the transformation of basic vibrations. From this fact comes the tradition of alchemical transmutation of lead into gold, a symbol in which the transformation of man's animal instincts into spiritual gold was hidden. Each person has a dominant vibration, which is like a selector dial that will tune the individual in to similar vibrations. One who vibrates pain will find pain. One who vibrates poverty will find poverty. One who vibrates illness will find illness. One who vibrates love will find love. One who vibrates hate receives hate. Love and be loved. Hate and you will be hated. Despise and you will be despised. Meditate constantly upon wisdom, love, and truth, and you will deserve the true wisdom of the initiate, which wisdom is beyond good and evil, beyond life and death, beyond pleasure and pain. How one thinks determines what he will find in his path. No one has the right to bemoan his bad luck, as each one may become the architect of his own destiny. Do not meditate on sad, depressive, or unpleasant things. Fix your mind on everything that is fine and beautiful, or on goodness and love. Never criticize your neighbor. Never look for defects in others. Always endeavor to find good qualities and virtues. Even in the most perverse man, we may find something worthwhile. Let us recall when Jesus and his disciples passed by the rotting body of a dog, which had a terrible odor. Everyone drew back with repugnance except Jesus, who said, "What beautiful teeth this animal has. They shine like pearls." If you learn to find gold, even in dross, you will veritably have been converted into a true spiritual alchemist. Criticize a man and you will be loading him with chains. Praise him and you will help him to succeed. When you need the cooperation of someone in order to accomplish your work, go and visit him confidently, imagine him as your brother, and send him vibrations of love and brotherhood, and you will be well received. All is within your reach if you learn to use your mind. But beware of abusing this power, using it to injure others or to obtain material possessions born of greed and ambition. Nobody has a right to take from the universal mind more than he is legitimately entitled to, and one who tries to do so will receive his just punishment. Before mental power is mobilized, it is a good idea to meditate deeply, to ascertain that what is desired is correct and justly deserved. To mold ideas with strength and power so that they may materialize rapidly, It is necessary to be a miser with one's thoughts, to economize one's mental powers by keeping the mind blank until the time comes for mental projection. You must keep your project a dark secret, because if you speak of it, you immediately provoke a counter-reaction. Never must you doubt the success of your project, as doubt is negative and destructive. You must be patient and endeavor not to pick the fruit before the necessary time has elapsed for its formation, birth, and ripeness. Once you have obtained what you desire, you must be prepared to face the reaction you will encounter regarding what you have done. The principle of cause and effect governs all. All actions provoke reactions of the same magnitude, but in the opposite direction. The reaction can only be prevented by powerful self-mastery. Let us remember always the law of vibration. If we have something and do not wish to lose it, we must polarize ourselves strongly toward what we have obtained, to prevent the reaction reaching us and wresting from us the fruit of our mental creation. If you are ill, remember that this illness is only an undesirable vibratory state, which may be transmuted into a healthy vibration. Together with the Hermetic principle of vibration, the principle of correspondence should be used. As it is above, it is below, and as it is below, it is above. All that which exists outside man has its equivalent within him, and therefore all we wish to accomplish on earth must first be accomplished within our soul. If this internal accomplishment is attained, materialization on the physical plane will also be obtained. The magic key to obtain all one desires dwells in the wise application of this magic triangle. And there is thought at the top, action and feelings at the other sides, and in the middle, a circle that represents willpower. To conclude, I wish to warn you that all mental action must be based on universal harmony, love, and goodness. Never must you endeavor to obtain what you do not deserve, as this is theft in which the all is a victim. And because it is theft, it will have to be returned very shortly, and the corresponding fine will be levied. I will give you an example of this from something I read that Neville Goddard wrote about how you imagine the thing and you live your imagination as if it were real. You imagine yourself as having accomplished, and you think of some scene that would happen or something that would be the result of your accomplishment, and you kind of live that one little scene over and over until you feel it real vividly. Anyway, Neville Goddard's really good with this. Thought transmission is what he called it. But he was telling about this problem that you watch what you want and what you're believing for. And he explained there was a man that was a movie producer, and he saw a lot of models that were very good looking and desirable. But he was a married man, but yet he wanted to have a romance with one of these models. So he imagined himself being with her. He imagined so well that it actually happened. She fell for him. And he had a little rendezvous with her and got her pregnant. And then he thought, well, maybe she will give up the baby, but she wouldn't. And she wanted him to leave his wife for her. But now he really didn't want that. He loved his wife too. He didn't want to leave his family and his wife. So what ended up happening is that she took her life and wrote a letter that she made public so that not only he would know it, but everybody else, explaining how he toyed with her affections and got her crazy about him, and then wanted her to get an abortion and not marry her, which she wanted him to do. So now this was all very public. His wife left him because of what he had done, and he had to feel the remorse of her having killed herself and the unborn baby. But his imagination was successful. It brought him what he wanted, this affair with this model. But see, that wasn't a good thing to want that. And what it reaped for him was sorrow. But I tell you this because you have to watch what it is you desire. You might just get it, and then after you get it, you might just realize that you desired wrong. So always be careful of that sort of thing. Because there are things they're telling you in this book where they don't go into, I'm sure they don't go into quite all the details in this science because it's for the public, but there are some powerful things we can do with our mind, and if we know how to do them, we can influence things mightily. And it's not good for just anybody to know how to do this unless they first are willing to use it only in positive and good ways that benefit the whole and not just a selfish interest. Anyway, this next chapter is called Search for Happiness, chapter 17. Nothing is longed for more by human beings than happiness, and nevertheless, how many can say they are happy? It is certain that only a small and select minority of the human race has acquired the precious gift of happiness. It is a constant and unending search in which each one endeavors in his own way and by different paths to be happy. The great human mass has identified happiness with what riches have to offer, struggling desperately to win the battle for riches. Once people have possessions of these riches and the advantages they offer, they find they are not happy and begin to think they were mistaken, that this was not happiness. Experience teaches that happiness should not be confused with pleasure. True happiness is within the human heart. It is as if there dwelt therein a bird, which upon awakening sings to us and produces ineffable joy. When we do not hear his song, it is certain he is afraid of what is outside and yearns for our care, and happiness fades away. It is not material pleasures that stimulate his song, but what dwells within the soul. Happiness is purely an internal state in which nothing happening outside intervenes. To be happy is to have found internal peace, having found oneself. Unhappiness arises from the division of the ego of the individual. It is because the individual is constantly changing that he has no soul and indivisible ego. When one manages to find a moment of happiness, the ego changes and this happiness fades away. There is no human being more unfortunate than the one who is a prisoner of conflicting feelings, whose heart is completely open to all the emotional vibrations which surround us. This poor man is like a human weather vane, which swings to the side dictated by the emotional vibrations which penetrate him. This individual suffers unspeakably as he is constantly oscillating between happiness and misfortune. When he thinks he is stepping at last onto the firm ground of happiness, the ground sinks beneath him and everything fades away. Desperation has reached him, and he will know no peace until his psychic pendulum swings the other way. The only path to happiness is to educate the heart, to feel only when guided by reason. In this way, the door is closed to negative psychic vibrations. To feel only when guided by reason. That's important to know. The greatest happiness reigns when the heart is at peace. It is not a matter of killing feelings, but training them to be conscientious and reasonable. It is endeavoring to introduce into the heart a capacity for reason without losing the freshness and spontaneity of its feelings. One who teaches his heart in this way will not be unfeeling, but, on the contrary, will feel more deeply than before, but conscientiously and reasonably. There are two great enemies of happiness, pride and selfishness. A conceited man will never be happy except when he undergoes the ordeal of consciously humbling himself, until this humiliation causes him no suffering, and then he can refrain from humility as he has conquered himself. all proud people have an inferiority complex which drives them to assert their personality, adopting an attitude of superiority. In extreme cases, they declare war on the rest of humanity. This could be called a kingly complex or queenly complex. The king, by decree, is constantly endeavoring to show the rest that he is something special, that he is different, original, and superior. As a child, he thought he was inferior to others for real or imaginary reasons. Among the imaginary reasons for this complex would be a lack of family love, especially the love of his parents. Because this child could not stand feeling inferior, he created an imaginary self in the form of a superior being full of ideal qualities. This being lived subconsciously and could be called an idealized image. As he was never able to live up to his idealized image, his reaction was a prideful, dominant, and deeply ironic personality. Deep inside himself, he desired to humiliate others because he realized he was not recognized, treated neither as a king or the Superman of his idealized image. He is very unhappy if he cannot demonstrate his superiority, and because of this, he may react by trying to become a great success, either commercial, artistic, or in any other way, which would place him in a privileged position versus the rest of the world. Since he is not recognized in the way his idealized image would warrant, he takes revenge in his pride, which he uses as a shield and buckler to enforce his powerful personality. He is by nature deeply distrustful and believes everyone is cheating him. This feeling originates within him and is a subterfuge to present to the world that which is not real, a false personality. He is also obstinate and twisted because he considers being agreeable and amenable a humiliation. If, for instance, psychoanalysis could help him do this, it would be best to decide to undergo the terrible humiliation of being only one more human being without any special rights or prerogatives. This idealized image, which we all create to a certain extent, may induce us to lose sight of our true happiness by pursuing objectives we really do not desire, just to feel superior. We must learn to be happy with what we have and not to live continually awaiting some special gift which we believe will make us happy. One who is not happy with what he has will never reach true happiness. We should live in the present. The only reality is today. The past and future are never real. Being able to awaken each morning in one's own bed, being able to breathe, to see what happens each moment, hear the song of the birds, enjoy our breakfast, and fully live each moment, these are the realities. We must live each moment of our life as if it were the last. How different life would be, for example, if we knew we were going to die in 24 hours. We would live fully, and never would the air be more precious or the light so wonderful. There are two magic words which are master keys to happiness, loving and giving. One who does not love cannot be happy. This is what Jesus meant when he said, "Love one another." If all mothers started now to teach love and tolerance to their children, then the world would change as people would change internally. What is it that drives men to mutual destruction, to bloody wars, political assassination, and all the terrible ills of humanity, if it is not a lack of consciousness? The dominance of the beast in man over his intelligence. Because his body belongs to the animal kingdom, man also receives the terrible inheritance of bestiality. The beast, which fights only for survival, does not worry about destroying his own species if he saves himself. This is the curse of humanity, its bestiality. We are gods in the body of beast, and the entire world is in the hands of the great beast, that is, man himself. Whoever surrenders to the beast within obtains honors, triumphs, and riches. but at the cost of the loss of his own willpower and conscience. It is for this reason that life has always been hard and difficult for those chosen spirits within whom there is love and conscience. We all know the reaction of the great beast when the one called Jesus Christ preached love and brotherhood amongst men. This Savior was crucified by the beast who saw that his kingdom was seriously threatened. But Christ bequeathed us his message of love and fraternity. This is the reason why there is so much deceit in the world. Anyone who tells the truth is exposed to the anger of the beast and suffers crucifixion. The only path to the evolution and salvation of the human race is the mastering of bestiality through spirit or the divine spark. This is the true regeneration behind the symbolic INRI written over Christ's head. There are innumerable stumbling blocks in the path for one who wishes to wear the crown of consciousness, for the beast is expert in the art of masquerade. And if this were not so, he would be readily recognized. He generally adopts the disguise of love and goodness to gather disciples and then use them as tools. Why, for example, is the image of Jesus Christ nailed to the cross kept before us as if it were necessary to remember and perpetuate this event? Human evolution has followed a totally unilateral course because on one hand there have been great scientific advances, and on the other hand man has not conquered himself and is in the same situation as a group of 6-year-old children playing with guns, atomic bombs, and missiles. What is the use of so much material progress if we are not capable of making conscientious use of these powers? We are not even able to act consciously with our own physical bodies, and yet we want to land on the moon and conquer the cosmos. Occultism, or the wise use of natural powers which influence the life of man, is the only path we can take to reach an integral transformation of the human race by development of the consciousness. The maximum ideal of this science is to attain world peace under one sole government, doing away with frontiers between countries so that only one people will exist, the earth. For this to come to pass, Christ would have to return to earth in the form of a new Messiah who would again fight to enchain the beast. If triumphant, a new period of spiritual splendor could begin for all humanity, until the day would dawn when the ego or spirit would reign over the beast. Anyone who wants to cooperate with the striving for world peace should say the following daily prayer. In the name of my immortal spirit, I ask for peace on earth, that love and fraternity reign in the heart of all men, that Christ should have the power and strength to overcome evil, that the light of the Spirit triumph over the darkness of ignorance, that now and always there should be peace and love on earth. If a great number of people would say this prayer daily, concentrating all their faith on its fulfillment, they would fill the planet with vibrations of love and peace, which would powerfully influence the maintenance of world peace. Let us not forget the basic principle that everything is mind. The universe is mental. From the moment we realize that everything is mind and that happiness and misfortune are only opposite poles of the same thing, we will be able to use our mental power to transmute a state of misfortune into one of happiness. Further, for this transmutation to be lasting, we must learn to isolate ourselves from low and undesirable vibrations, those born of base instincts and human passions, which surround the soul of the planet. One wishing to keep pure and clean and avoid these lower vibrations is in the same situation as a man who is dressed in white and has to cross a swamp. Low or evil vibrations are transmitted just like germs of the plague. A woman who has fought with her husband and visits a friend carries this vibration of strife, anger, and ire, and leaves this vibration in that house as well as in the etheric double of her friend, who will suffer some disturbance due to this. The only way to shield oneself against these negative vibrations is to attain complete psychic mastery in order not to be caught by them. Psychic mastery is fundamental for finding happiness, and the heart is equivalent to the tuning knob of our internal receiver. If we tune in to a low vibration, we take on all the power of this vibratory field, and it will be difficult for us to withdraw from this negative state. Everything we have discussed up to now refers to the happiness of the ego, which is the only true, lasting, and real happiness. Bodily Bodily happiness is reached by satisfying the purely physical needs of the mass, such as eating, drinking, procreating, owning beautiful clothes and expensive cars, so that everybody we meet can see how successful we are. It is strange how the human being is identified with the needs of its mass to the extreme of being unable to distinguish reality from illusion. The mass constantly demands many things: food, pleasure, comforts, and especially the company of other masses. This is clearly seen in the case of love, because it is possible for one who knows these laws to distinguish immediately between true love and purely physical attraction. A couple might swear eternal love over and over and feel as if their hearts are breaking when they are apart. Be completely convinced that they love as nobody ever loved before, and as nobody could ever love, and true love may be entirely absent from this relationship. The mass of this woman needs the mass of this man, because by joining they duplicate their energy mass, which naturally brings deep physical satisfaction. One of the characteristics of this pseudo-love is that the woman will not surrender wholeheartedly to the man because he surrenders totally and completely to her. The woman's physical being wishes to possess the man's physical being entirely. Thus the woman loses her femininity upon taking the active or masculine role that is the man role. This is the most reliable sign for recognizing true love both in woman and man. The woman who really loves surrenders without demanding anything. She gives without seeking anything in exchange, as nature offers all its gifts to man without any reward. This woman thinks only of the happiness of her partner and not how he can make her happy. A man who really loves a woman will remain at her side, giving all his support, even if she is only seeking her own comfort and advantage. Happiness in love is perhaps the most difficult to find, because it is impossible for true love to be born and for true love to be equally reciprocated. Generally, true love is unilateral and never reciprocated in the same measure. Those who wish to find happiness in love should abide by the following advice so that their natures completely harmonize. Neither a man nor a woman is 100% one sex, for each person carries a certain amount of the energy of the opposite sex. A man, for example, may be 80% male, 20% female. This part of the opposite sex in a human being causes all of the disharmony in marriage, and when this part comes to the surface, there is immediately a clash of vibrations of the same polarity, and repulsion is inevitable, as it is well known that similar poles repel and contrary poles attract. A woman should calmly analyze herself to discover which of her attitudes are feminine and which are masculine. She must never endeavor to dominate the man, be possessive, as this attitude automatically closes the door to success. She must beware that her words do not injure the psyche of her partner with negative suggestions, which destroy. It is not unusual to hear an angry wife say to her husband, "You are useless, good for nothing." If she knew the enormous damage she was causing with hard words, she would carefully avoid these words, together with becoming, slowly but surely, what she insinuated. A man will feel a strong resentment against her because he feels that his masculine dignity, pride, and virility have been questioned, and that he is being treated as a mischievous schoolboy. This is the most certain way for a woman to lose her man. She should never try to impose her will imperiously. If she wishes to obtain something, it must be with sweetness, love, and subtle insinuation. So he thinks he is giving and not being forced. The woman who knows how to reign supreme in the heart of a man will obtain everything from him without even asking. A man needs a woman beside him who will boost his virility and manliness, and not one who undermines him. Happy is the one who is respected, loved, and obeyed by his wife. Is it not better for a wife to obtain everything from her husband by respecting and obeying him instead of making his life difficult, so that in the end he surrenders in order to live in peace? I can assure all dominant women that their husbands do not really love them. They live with them only from habit and fear. A dominant woman will never keep her man, as she has positive or masculine vibrations and will never satisfy him sexually. When a woman is deeply feminine and surrenders soul and spirit to her man, she will always be the only one, and there will be no woman, no matter how beautiful she is, who will be capable of taking him from her side. Let us more deeply explore the psychology of a dominant woman, as this point is important both to man and to woman. For the dominant woman, or Diana, can only be happy with a man with an Oedipus complex, who is most happy to have a mother to obey, one who will dominate him. Contrary to what is supposed, the Oedipus complex and the Electra complex are not so uncommon. They do, nevertheless, pass unobserved, because generally these complexes develop at an early age and are deeply embedded in the subconscious, provoking certain reactions which are rarely attributed to this complex. A woman with an Electra complex will never be able to fulfill herself sexually and effectively if she does not eradicate this obsession from her mind. She feels an instinctive hate for men because she thinks she is being cheated, despised, and hurt by her progenitor, when her desire to be joined to him is not fulfilled. Many times she turns into a devourer of men, with a wish to destroy them as a means of destroying the both hated and beloved image of her father, which has been engraved on her subconscious. Each man she unites with brings to life in her this terrible duality, which can easily lead to schizophrenia. On the one hand, she loves him, but as soon as the image of her father surfaces, she hates her partner, because she identifies him with her progenitor, and therefore feels humiliated and despised, just as she felt diminished and deceived by her father in her childhood when she saw him with another woman. The time comes when the woman says, "Love does not exist for me. Therefore it can never exist," because she unconsciously seeks the father image in other men, and when she finds it, the terrible struggle between love and hate, the attraction and repulsion, rise again. The best that can happen to her is to fall deeply in love with a man of high moral and spiritual qualities and surrender to him totally and completely. If this should happen, it is possible the image of this man will erase the father's image, and she will attain longed-for happiness. In what could be called a simulation of love, the dominant woman unconsciously forces a man to adopt a false personality entirely in keeping with what she alone desires, and suppressing at the same time all that displeases her. Everything he does is to please her, to make her happy, and avoid unpleasantness because he fears her tantrums and bad tempers. This confirms her masculine character because she has possessed her man by forcing him to adapt to her personality. Can it be said that she loves him? Naturally not, since she has a doll for herself, which gives her pleasure because it acts exactly as she wishes. This is unnatural and artificial, and we must remember that all that is not natural is punished because it is against nature. The punishment the man will receive who acts this role is lack of the power given by nature. he will struggle fruitlessly and will not be able to attain success unless he finds another more feminine woman. The more feminine his woman, the more power he will have to give, because he finds in her all the gifts of Mother Nature. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to finish this chapter in the next session. This is the Dove Lady, over and out for now.